Israel takes Rafah crossings as truce talks continue. Let's put it up full mass. There's the tyrant, Benjamin Netanyahu, the individual who has decided to engage in a genocide against people, human beings, primarily women and children in Gaza. Per Al Jazeera, the Israeli and Hamas delegations are in Cairo for ceasefire talks and release of abductees, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stating in a statement shared by his office, he instructed the Israeli delegation to, quote, stand firm on the conditions necessary for the release of Israeli captives held in Gaza and on the central requirements for guaranteeing Israel's security. Nobody faults him for that statement. They fault him for allowing the attack to happen in the first place. And that's why roughly 80% of Israeli citizens are adversarial to Netanyahu and do not trust his leadership. With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show. There's more. UN Secretary General, let's put him up. Antonio Guterres also came out strongly against Israel's planned invasion of Rafah, which appears to be imminent. Guterres joins other world leaders in his opposition to any military operation against the city in southern Gaza, where more than 1 million Palestinians are currently sheltering. They are not soldiers. At around 5:35 p.m. GMT, Rafah residents reported heavy tank shelling, and the event in the evening in some areas of eastern Rafah. Israel's military says it is conducting, quote, a limited operation to kill Hamas fighters and dismantle infrastructure used by Hamas. Now, per the BBC, the Israeli military says the troops have taken operational control of the Palestinian side of the Rafah border, crossing between Gaza and Egypt. Rafah has been a key entry point for aid and the only exit point for people able to flee since the start of this war. A tank brigade moved into the crossing area after a night of intense strikes, with Israel's Kerem Shalom crossing also closed. The UN warned Gaza's 2 main aid arteries were now choked off. On Monday, the Israeli military ordered tens of thousands of civilians to begin evacuating nearby eastern parts of Rafah city, ahead of what it called a limited operation to eliminate Hamas fighters and dismantle infrastructure. Hamas says Israel's incursion and seizure of the crossing was aimed at undermining attempts by regional mediators to secure a new ceasefire deal. Now, let me say this for those who are contrarian. They are saying, well, you have to believe Israel in this. Hamas, they are obviously lying, and these other nations are unaware. They don't have access to the information, so they're believing whatever fits their bias. I am looking at the comments. Israel has a horrible record with telling the truth, spinning this PR narrative while committing genocide. I don't fault those who do not believe the Israeli government right now, because the Israeli government has earned the distrust of the international world. There's more. The Palestinian armed group said on Monday that it had accepted a proposal from Egypt and Qatar, the basis of which is a weeks-long pause in the fighting and the release of several dozen hostages still held in Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Tuesday that the announcement was very far from Israel's necessary requirements and that it was a failed attempt to disrupt the entry of our forces into Rafah. Now, Al Jazeera reports that the White House National Security spokesman, John Kirby, said during a news briefing that Israel informed the U.S. its operations in Rafah will be focused on blocking weapons and financial support from being smuggled into Gaza. Hey, guys, they're just trying to make sure there's nothing that, could harm them being smuggled in. That's all. The U.S. has warned Israel against an assault which humanitarian groups fear would have significant results in the region for hundreds of thousands of displaced people. But Washington has given few signs that it would do a damn thing. The Biden administration is hopeful Israel and Hamas can, quote, close the remaining gaps in their ceasefire talks and a deal is reached soon. Kirby said Hamas offered amendments on Monday to an original Israeli proposal aimed at ending the impasse. The deal text, as amended, suggests the remaining gaps can absolutely be closed. He also says CIA Chief William Burns will attend the ongoing Cairo truce talks. The top guy from the CIA will be involved. Not sure if that's a good thing or not. That's a bureaucrat. You need real hardcore diplomatic services here. Now, there are colleges who have been protesting. We have brought you that coverage every week. Most of those colleges are getting it wrong. Most of those colleges are acting adversarial to their very own student base in order to support a narrative contrary to humanitarianism. But there are some colleges doing it right. We want to highlight those colleges at this time because without the kind of international pressure and some of that pressure, yes, coming from college students in America, you may not see a ceasefire at all. Put them up full mast, stateside. University of California, Riverside, University of Minnesota, and Northwestern University, Illinois, Brown University, Rhode Island, have all struck deals with pro-Palestine protesters to end encampments on campus grounds under certain conditions. Now, I want to take you to this video and I'll give you an update. Here it is.
Thanks. I'll be brief. I can't compete with hip hop. I just want to do a few things. First, I want to thank all of you. As Samia says, we should be proud of the fact that we've got through this together in a peaceful way. And that's a credit to everybody here. I particularly want to call out... Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I particularly want to call out these two young women.
Yes.
You couldn't have better leaders, and I mean that sincerely. From the beginnings of our discussions, it was always clear we all had the same goal: to make UCR the best place we could today and in the future. And we're, I think, all proud of the work. I'm particularly grateful for your leadership, for all of you. So thank you.
Put it up full mast. You see, I'm so damn grateful that those students will be my future leader. They will not be denied. I'm so thankful for university presidents that still understand the power of being a student advocate. And thank you to all of these universities for not intentionally manipulating the narrative, because the truth is, pro-Jewish student advocacy groups and pro-Palestinian student advocacy groups partner at these universities to protest the senseless killing that's happening in Gaza. Per KTLA, protesters at the University of California, Riverside, reached an agreement with school officials to end the pro-Palestinian campus occupation Friday night. Protesters urged UCR to disclose investments and divest from companies like the Israeli occupation. They called for cutting ties with Israeli universities, including exchange programs. Following a negotiation meeting on May 1st and a rally with hundreds of participants, campus leaders and demonstrators agreed to end the encampment by midnight on May 3rd. Now, why? Because the university gave them room. Cause and effect, remember? Cause and effect. We're acting as if we could somehow solve a problem by treating the effect and never going to the cause. The cause was policy, university policy, affixed in a positive position toward the Israeli government who currently is likely engaged in a genocidal attack. There's more. The University of Minnesota became the third school, actually, to do so after agreeing to consider the demands of student protesters and demonstrators and organizations, including the UMN Divest Coalition. Protesters were calling for the university to divest from Israel. Organizers dismantled their encampment on the campus, the North Drop Mall, in light of the development, in conjunction with the release of administration statement today and further commitment to the concrete steps agreed upon yesterday. UMN Divest will be disbanding the encampment. Once again, they went to the cause, and they have been able to successfully have a positive effect. The university initially communicated its openness to the camp organizers, demands via a letter, which was followed by a public announcement. Representatives of the Student Coalition will address the Board of Regents on May 10th. These student organizers, vowing to maintain accountability, plan to pursue divestment discussions, urging the university to end ties with companies allegedly supporting Israel through investment. The Daily Northwestern reported that Northwestern officials appeared to be the first to reach a deal with anti-war demonstrators following 5 days of protest and encampments on Deering Meadow. NU and the Northwestern Divestment Coalition reached an agreement allowing protests and pro-Palestinian gatherings until June 1st. The university will disclose investments in businesses with Israel ties, and the NDC agreed to maintain only 1/8 non-campus actors are advised against penalizing students for protected speech, ensuring job offers won't be rescinded. The NDC hailed the agreement as a milestone, citing the university's commitment to disclosing investments and a pathway to divestment from companies supporting Israeli apartheid. Another deal was reached between Brown University and the Brown Divestment Coalition, a similar pro-Palestine group. Protesters involved agreed to end the encampment on campus in exchange for a promise from the university to hold a board vote in October whether or not to divest from Israel-linked companies. HuffPost reported that Brown also agreed to invite 5 students chosen by the coalition for a meeting with the school administrators to again discuss a proposal recommending divestments from companies linked to Israel. BU also said students and faculty who have engaged in demonstrations will not be punished by their institution. In a statement posted to Instagram that read in part, quote, "Victory is not the end to our work, but rather fuel for it. And we will continue to pressure Brown to ensure we divest in October and support encampments across the country. We stand with student protesters as they face university oppression and police brutality, and the people of Palestine as they continue to withstand the Israeli occupation." Meanwhile, per Axios, Senator Rick Scott, Republican of Florida, encourages the DOJ to prosecute college students protesting at their own institutions that they pay for. Support for Israel's military in Gaza, claiming it violates civil rights. This contrasts sharply with the violent arrest of peaceful protesters on campuses and the US-backed killings of Palestinians in Gaza. Axios reported Scott wrote a letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland alleging that pro-Palestine student groups, quote, "are conspiring to violate the civil rights of a religious minority," end quote. Scott asked whether the AG would, quote, "investigate and prosecute the leaders of student groups and urged them to weed out their sources of funding." You understand, these students have adopted the methodology of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which was the methodology of boycott. It's called economic divestment. When you decide to stop spending money with entities that are adversarial to your values, the students pay tuition to the universities that make arrangements and investments with Israel or Israeli companies. Would you not agree that these students have the right, the moral and ethical right to say what happens to their tuition money that they pay in order to maintain the institution? Of course they do. We're just glad to see a few university presidents have not forgotten that. All right, I know it was a lot there, Sharon. It was important to get all of that on record. What say you?
You know, some of these college presidents have forgotten why they're there, as you eloquently pointed out, and they've forgotten because of big donors, boards, powerful alum, and it's sick. These kids, in my view, are doing some heroic, heavy lifting, and I think that's part of the reason, as you indicated, there is this ceasefire, and we'll see how that goes. But remember what those Columbia University students wanted. Things like, I don't know, divest and don't support these exchange programs in Tel Aviv, where Palestinian students were not permitted to attend those universities. So we got to keep talking about it, Doc. I applaud your efforts here. I'm proud of Northwestern University, one of my alma maters. I'm watching the other alma mater, awesome. Georgetown, very closely.
Well, I got another college for us to look to in the future, and that's Morehouse when Biden comes to speak. I promise you, they got something for him.